With a new administration obsessed with equity, it was only a matter of time before the delusional pay your fair share left-wing talking points returned. This country lives under a liberal-created illusion that the wealthy simply cruise through life in a Rolls-Royce going 80 miles an hour down a boulevard of green lights, while the poor and middle class slave away and pay all the taxes. It is a despicable lie. It is demonstrably false. But it works well in creating animosity for the rich. That's the intended purpose. It is a lie that has given the world governments based on collectivism for hundreds of years. Governments that end in spectacles of failure that are documented in history books that schools won't let your kids read. Liberals insist the top 1% is not paying its fair share. So let's quickly just debunk that and then we'll move on. In 2018, the latest year with available data from the IRS, the top 1%, which accounted for people making over $540,000 that year, earned 21% of the income and paid 40% of the bills. Transition, the bottom 50%, earning less than $43,600 that year, took in 12% of all the income, paying only 3% of all the bills. And you can see how liberal our tax system is from that. And yet Americans who make good money and pay for most of the nice things we have, people that give away about half of their income, still get to hear stuff like this.
Big corporations and the super wealthy have to start paying their fair share of taxes. It's long overdue. I'm not out to punish anyone. I'm a capitalist. If you can make $1 million or $1 billion, that's great. God bless you. All I'm asking is you pay your fair share.
A definition of fair share is a question that must be answered at some point, and of course, it's a question the White House never gets. I'd love to see them try to explain how it's not already fair. They couldn't do it. The top 1%, again, pay 40% of the bills. The top 5% in this country pay 60% of the bills. The top 10% in this country pay 71% of the bills. The great irony is one could actually argue Biden's right. It does need to be more equitable. Higher earners should probably pay less. Imagine that argument from a political candidate. That wouldn't go well. The House Ways and Means Committee approving a major portion of Democrats' $3.5 trillion spending package this week, which would raise the corporate tax rate for income above $5 million from 21 to 26.5%. Raise the top individual income tax rate from 37 back up to 39.6, where it was before Trump, and raise the top capital gains tax rate from 20 to 25%. Now, today, Biden vilified the companies in this country that employ so many of the people in this nation, and again pushed the false idea that they don't pay any taxes. Take a listen.
Since the pandemic began, billionaires have seen their wealth go up by $1.8 trillion. How is it possible that 55 of the largest corporations in this country paid $0 in federal income taxes?
So if you were to claim that illegal immigrants in this country paid no taxes, you'd be berated by liberal fact checkers who would say that's false. They would cite sales tax and maybe some other taxes, gas taxes that they pay, all outside of traditional income taxes. That's what they'd say. The problem is the same is true for corporations, which liberals always claim pay no taxes. That's a lie. Corporations pay income tax, payroll tax, property tax, excise tax. There's a lot of ways they pay a lot of taxes. And again, they employ everybody too. Biden is right, though. Many don't pay income tax even if they make a profit. There's a reason, though. It's that we want to keep corporations here. And there are other countries that are trying to take them from us. Of course, everybody wants corporations headquartered in their country. We want to keep them here. We want to keep people motivated also to start corporations. You motivate that by giving people that own corporations yachts. That's how you get people trying to create jobs in a country, not just take one. The country needs people creating jobs, not just taking them. We all know this. And we wisely incentivize that, or at least we did before people like Biden got into power. The president also touted his plan to ramp up IRS enforcement on everybody, which could signal an end to financial privacy for Americans. It's pretty scary stuff here. In order to do this, he plans to use taxpayer money, of course, to give the IRS an additional $80 billion in funding over the next 10 years.
It will give the IRS the resources it needs to keep up with the lawyers and accountants and the super wealthy. It would ask just for two pieces of information: from the banks of these folks, the amounts that come into their bank accounts and what amounts go out of their bank accounts, so that the wealthy can no longer hide what they're making.
Nor could anybody. Biden's plan is to allow the IRS to monitor financial transactions from any personal or business account with $600 or more. Remember when government spying on people was a bad thing? Remember when liberals fought back against this kind of garbage? Where did they go? I suppose they're happy to give up personal freedoms to gain their so-called liberal utopia they think that they're going to get. An article in Reason today warned enhanced tax enforcement will mean hoovering up more data from crypto wallets, bank accounts, and third-party payment providers such as PayPal and Venmo. And that comes after Biden already ordered the IRS to give greater scrutiny to transactions in the so-called sharing economy. We've seen the IRS become more political throughout the years, most notably with former President Barack Obama, who weaponized the IRS against the Tea Party and other conservative nonprofit groups that were seeking tax-exempt status between 2010 and 2012. Critics said the agency had subjected those targeted groups to extra scrutiny, questioning, and long delays, largely because their names suggested they would be political opponents of Obama. Yeah, that was the Obama, they never had any scandals. That's just one of them. You got to love giving the IRS more power, right? What's the approval rating for the IRS in this country, by the way? I got to wonder. They want to give them $80 billion more dollars. How many Americans like the IRS? Can't imagine how this could backfire. The truth is this, though. If you took every penny of income from every single person earning more than $1 million in this country, that's who we vilified, right? If you make more than $1 million, if you make $1 million or $1 billion, you need to pay your fair share. If you took all the money from everybody making over $1 million in this country, you'd have less than $1 trillion in revenue. And as you've seen with the congressional spending plans lately, that is nothing. What this country has is a spending problem. The revenue is fine, and the taxation schedule is extremely progressive, almost unfairly the other way, and probably is unfair the other way. It's not just progressive enough for the socialists occupying the White House. That's the problem. The American economy is in a very fragile place right now. An administration reeling with a low approval rating and multiple massive failures would be wise to avoid any big moves, like big tax hikes that might scare off a reasonable COVID recovery. But of course, in classic Joe Biden form, they're trying to go against all logic yet again.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.